Hello, and welcome. Well, all right, Diva fam, let's talk about something that nobody prepared me for. When people talk about taking GLP-1 medications like Mounjaro, Zepbound, Ozempic, or Wegovy, they tell you about some of the side effects you can get, like stomach issues, nausea, constipation, but nobody tells you about the weird stuff that can happen. And some of these weird side effects will have you thinking, is that normal? So let's talk about it. When I started my GLP-1 journey, I noticed things like being cold all the time when before I was hot and needed a fan sometimes at some points. I also noticed some of my food tasted strange. It didn't taste like it used to taste. I noticed my cravings disappeared. And then I started hearing thousands of people in the GLP-1, well, it feels like thousands of people, talking about this and talking about how there were some weird things going on with them too. Some people talked about having sulfur burps. I've never had those. Some people talked about their skin hurting and feeling real sensitive. People were saying, why does my skin hurt? Why is it so sensitive to the touch? Why suddenly do I not want alcohol? They don't want it. They just don't want it. One thing I guess I'm grateful for on one hand, but on the other, it's like, oh man, why does your favorite food not taste the same anymore? Listening to all those things made me realize that GLP-1 medications don't just affect your stomach, they affect your metabolism, your nervous system, your brain, and your hormones. The GLP-1 is affecting all those things. So if you're experiencing weird symptoms, well, guess what? You are not crazy. There are so many people in the GLP-1 community experiencing these things, and it is simply your body adjusting to this metabolic, marvelous medication or treatment, as I like to say. For a lot of people, this is a sign that their GLP-1 medication is actually working. So today we're talking about the strangest GLP-1 side effects that people are actually experiencing. I like to call these side effects pesky, right? They're pretty annoying. The first one is skin sensitivity. Some people have experienced some odd nerve sensitivity and sensations on their skin. I have personally not experienced this, but I've heard of it. And what is going on with that? I'm often told it feels like sunburn without a burn or tingling on your skin. People have told me that the skin hurts when it touches your clothes. So very sensitive to touch. This is called allodynia, and it has been reported by some GLP-1 users, but they say it comes and goes. Are you experiencing that out there? That's interesting. Sensitive skin. The next one is changes in your smell sensitivity. That means that your smell becomes super sensitive. So some people report smelling food from far away, being turned off by certain food odors. I've experienced that. Strong reactions to cooking smells. Has that happened to you? This can make appetite suppression even stronger. So when people say they don't eat, they don't have a desire to eat, sometimes it's associated with the smell of the food and the smell sensitivity of it all. The next one is your food noise disappearing or suddenly, all of a sudden, coming back. Now, I'm going to tell you, I've experienced both of these where my food noise was completely gone and then my food noise suddenly came back. One of the most fascinating GLP-1 effects we all know, we hear about this, is the food noise. It's constant thoughts about food, snacking, and cravings. Were you one of those people like me who didn't know you had it until you heard what it meant? And then it was like, it makes perfect sense. People often say the mental chatter going on in your head just would not stop. And that pretty much sums up food noise. Always thinking about food, wondering when you were going to eat, when the next meal was coming, how you were going to eat it, and just all things related to food. Sometimes, though, on your GLP-1, it can randomly come back, especially, you guys can probably guess these, when shot day is near. For sure, that's one of my times when I start to feel like I might be getting some food noise. During stress, that's that emotional eating during those times. And if your dose changes, so that could be titrating up, and most of the time I hear it's when people titrate down. So when your dose changes, just be aware that your food noise may change. The next one is, and I know there are studies being done about this, but your alcohol tolerance changes. So I'm going to tell you, I am not an alcohol person, but people who drink alcohol have told me that the alcohol tastes worse. It tastes worse than before. They don't even want it. It hits them harder, which I can see that makes sense, right? Because your digestion is slowing down. That alcohol is going to hit even harder than before. And some people just flat out don't have a desire to drink anymore. And I know that's huge if you were a heavy drinker or if you were someone who liked an occasional drink. And we know drinking can add on pounds, but it's also something that can be a little bit addictive, right? People love their drinks, the cocktails of it all. So for somebody not to want that, I think that's huge. I think that's smart that research is going on to figure out how that works and how to help people who need help with alcohol. So that brings us to the next one of my faves. Well, not when it happens, but I love all things hair. Hair shedding, the hair shedding of it all. So we know that hair shedding can happen during rapid weight loss. And I know so many people, when I first started my GLP-1 Mounjaro 2 years ago, I would be out and about watching different videos or hearing people talk about GLP-1s. And that hair loss, people were so surprised by that. But it makes sense because not just on a GLP-1, but anybody who's on a weight loss journey and losing weight really fast, quickly, rapidly, you're going to have issues with your hair falling out or shedding a lot more than it normally does. So that was a known fact before the GLP-1. But I think because people are really just doing a great job on these GLP-1s, the weight is coming off really quickly for some people, then they have issues with the hair. So that is one weird side effect that I wish would go away. The next one is burping and sulfur burps. Now, I can't imagine having a sulfur burp because I'm telling you, I just imagine a sulfur burp being like passing gas, coming out on a different end. And so let's talk about that. Many GLP-1 users experience those sulfur burps and they can smell like eggs, sulfur, and strong digestion gas. And this happens because the GLP-1 slows your stomach emptying. So it does make sense that you would get sulfur burps. I actually have never had any, and I'm not a burper. I really don't burp often. So if you're having these sulfur burps, drop down in the comments and let me know, because people who are having these, I'm sure, want a nice fix for this. So is there something that helps? That's something that people can take for this? GLP-1 medications are working on many different systems in our body. It's working on our brain, right? It's working on our hormones. It's working on our digestion, metabolism. So these medications can sometimes feel unrelated to weight loss, but actually, because of how the GLP-1 works in our system, a lot of these things make sense that they would actually happen. The next one is, and this is a biggie. This really is a biggie. When hunger feels like nausea. Have you experienced that? Now, I'm going to tell you, sometimes I've experienced that on a GLP-1. So instead of feeling hungry, you feel nauseous, you feel weak, you feel a little off, right? Something just doesn't feel right. Then you eat and you feel better. Has anybody experienced that besides me? That is a huge thing. So I say, if you're feeling nauseous, try eating something small, light, and protein-based to help you feel better. The next one is, and has this happened to any of you? A reduced desire to shop, or your impulsive habits have been reduced in some way. Have you felt that? So many have reported reduced impulse spending. I think that's great. That's probably saving a lot of folks money, but some people are paying a lot of money for this medication. So maybe it's a little bit of a win-win. If you are someone who has had a history of BE, I hope that this medication or treatment has brought you some relief. Other addictive behaviors, some people say smoking, you hear about the alcohol, but other things, that gambling, all those things, and I'm sure they're being researched to figure out how this medication is really working. And hopefully one day soon, this medication will be approved to treat some of these addictions or impulse habits. Another weird side effect is forgetting to eat. Have you done that? Now, I forget to eat. When I first started out, I was doing it a lot less, I think, because I was just really kind of looking at everything I was doing and trying to be so meticulous with everything. And then once I got in the habit of having a routine and a system in place, and I wasn't watching what I was doing, I started getting into the zone where I wanted to do some intermittent fasting. And then the next thing I know, it went from intermittent fasting to skipping meals to not eating. And that really hit me hard when I first started 12.5 milligrams. I'm currently on 12.5 milligrams. And so, yeah, that's a side effect. I mean, I hear so many people say, if I don't remind myself to eat, I will forget to eat. So some days you may go hours and hours without thinking about food at all. And that's in a way a good feeling because you thought about food so much, right? With the food noise. But now it's almost to the other extreme. So, hey, what are you going to do? I say set some timers to remind yourself to eat. Start with that protein first. Some people start with the fiber first, but get to eating. Have you figured out what this next one is? It is being unusually cold. Now, I wish somebody had told me before I started taking Mounjaro that I was going to be cold all the time. I've always been on the colder side, I will say that. But being on these GLP-1 medications, it seems like everybody is cold. We're cold all the time. And when you think about the science behind why we're cold while we're taking GLP-1 medications, it makes sense. So I'm going to tell you why we get cold, and then I'm going to tell you what I'm personally doing about it. One of the reasons we get cold is because we are losing weight rapidly. Well, some of us are. And when you're losing weight, rapid fat loss can reduce insulation, which makes sense, right? Your body is not staying warm. Lower calorie intake also reduces metabolic heat. Did you guys know that? So our weight loss is going to reduce that metabolic heat that we get, like our own inner thermostat, right? It's going to reduce that. In other words, slower metabolism equals less heat production. And doesn't that make perfect sense? Also, changes in your metabolism and your circulation, that's also going to make you cold. I used to hear people say they were hot all the time, and now they can't keep warm enough. Right now, they are freezing, literally. It does make sense, but I'm going to tell you when this could become a problem. If you are having constant chills, anybody having constant chills, you just can't seem to warm yourself up. Fatigue, or if you're getting weak, that's a sign that you need to see your doctor. Research says if your skin is getting pale, you notice that along with being cold, or you tend to have shortness of breath, you need to see a doctor. And I mean ASAP. Contact your doctor, find out what's going on. Now, here are some things we can do about it. We can layer up, which is something I just did. We can layer up, right? Another thing we can do is invest in a great blanket. So I'm going to show you some of the things that I have that are keeping me warm. So I have this great blanket. I love the color, first of all, that red burgundy-ish color. Love that. And then I have a heating blanket. I put that baby on every night. That keeps me warm. And you know what? One of the things that happens is sometimes I get a little overheated, but I love how it has an automatic shut on and shut off button. So you want to make sure you can find something that has some options if you can. And then my handy dandy heating pad that I could take around the house with me, heat up as needed. And that was gifted to me, and I just love it. So those are the things that you could do to stay warm. Now, the next, should I take this off? It's so comfy. The next side effect is your food suddenly tastes different. Now, have you guys noticed that? I've noticed that the food doesn't quite taste the same. And your favorites, right? Some of your all-time favorites, you may have had them since being on a GLP-1 and it just didn't give you that same effect. And in a way, I guess that's good, right? Because a lot of people, I don't know if your favorite food was broccoli and now the broccoli doesn't taste right. Maybe that's your story. But for me, it would be things like French fries or pizza, like your favorite pizza place, or a good old turkey burger. You know, I love a good turkey burger, and sometimes they don't just hit the same. And so that's one of the things that the GLP-1 has affected. People say some of their favorite foods even taste bad. Not that they don't taste the same, they taste bad. If you were loving fried foods, now they taste really greasy and yucky. If you loved alcohol, remember I talked about that earlier, how people said that the alcohol doesn't even taste the same. They don't even like it. Your coffee tastes bitter. Now I know a lot of you are drinking coffee and that Profi, is it tasting different? Or have you figured out a way to make that taste good? Your favorite foods might suddenly taste too rich, right? I've experienced that with lasagna. I used to love a good lasagna. I don't think I've eaten lasagna since I've been taking this GLP-1, and it's been over 2 years. Can you believe that? I just thought about that. Interesting fact. So this happens because the GLP-1 medications affect the reward center in your brain. That's telling you those foods were great before, and now they're telling you no, 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 not so much. So that's one of the things I love about the GLP-1 is that it actually changes your brain and your thinking towards food. With that said, that brings us to our last weird side effect. What do you think it could be? Brain fog and having some low energy days. Now, that's a side effect that I don't know that many people, unless they researched the GLP-1 before they took them, I don't think that that's something that people would have figured would be a side effect, right? That you would just have low energy, you wouldn't be able to function some days. And I know for everyone, this is not true, but this is something that has happened to me. And really, it kicks in that first couple days after my injection. And honestly, shockingly, surprisingly, and I guess maybe not if I'm really thinking about this, but when I was on the lower doses, I feel like it was a little bit worse. Now that I'm getting on the higher doses, like the 10, the 12 and a half, after a couple of months on there, those side effects just kind of dwindle down. And I guess it makes sense, right? Your body has gotten used to the medication, and that's just what's happening. So some days you may feel mentally slow. Some days you may feel fatigued. Some days you may feel unfocused. And that is a weird side effect that some of us have. So hopefully, if you're one of those people, you're bouncing back after a couple of days once the medication is in your system and you are ready to go. So those are the weird side effects on a GLP-1. I want you to let me know in the comments, have you experienced any of these weird side effects? Or is there something that you may have experienced that I did not talk about in this video? If so, drop down in the comments and let me know. I want you to remember to hype this video. Hype, 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 hype. Now, if you think this video helped you in any way or could help somebody in the future, maybe you are just the GLP-1 expert, you've been on this medication, you have it down, but if this video can help somebody else, please hype the video so it could get pushed out. Don't forget, while you're hyping, subscribe. If you're not subscribed, hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time I upload a video or go live. I want you there. So don't forget to hit that notification bell, like and share the video. If you are someone who's looking for some more tips, tools, and strategies, I want you to check out my video that talks about what to do after your GLP-1 injection, because that video is going to be very helpful for you, whether you're a beginner or if you're someone who's been on the journey for a year or two, like myself. I know you will get some great tips from that video. If you are someone that needs some extra support on this journey, I want you to join my Downsizing Diva Inner Circle. This is an awesome group of women. We have a little private live sessions where we talk about all things GLP-1 and women's health. Click the link in the description and join us on our health journey. I want to remind you that I am live. I am live every Wednesday, currently at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So if you have some questions or if you just want to celebrate yourself, come on and join us live at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The Downsizing Diva family would be glad to have you there. Check out my stand store. I have a stand store. It has some great guides and tools that can support you on your GLP-1 journey. So click on that link in the description as well. And most importantly, I want you to take great care of yourself on this journey. I think that is so important that I say that. Take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, that's not going to help you be here to take care and support anybody else. And we can never forget, slow and steady wins the race. Just don't quit.